Hello fellow modelers, Bruce here. If you're a loyal follower of my channel, you know that I have a liking for the steam locomotives made by Tyco Mantua. And I have examples of those, from their 040s to 060s all the way up to wheel configurations. Many of them are on the roster as operational, and others are sitting on a shelf waiting to be fixed. But, again, I'm a fan. What I want to do today is talk about two of their most popular littler locomotives. They're 060s, and they had two very popular ones. One they called their Little Six, and the other one they called the Big Six. Let's start with the Little Six. You've seen this guy before. I had a video showing me restoring it, painting it, and then lettering it for the Bangor Slate Company on my Jersey Highlands Railroad. Runs quite well. I have a KD coupler on the rear. I have a horn hook coupler on the front because that is a very tight spot back there. So the horn hook that they supplied, Mantua supplied, fits fine. The little guys like this, no tender. Pickup from one pole of the motor is from the right side of the engine as if you're sitting in the engine. So electricity gets picked up here, passed through the axles to the frame, and right up to the motor itself. And on the other side, there is a insulated pickup here that rubs on the wheels and has a wire going up to the other pole on the motor. And they run fairly well, like any short-coupled locomotive like this. Sometimes they have trouble going over turnouts and so forth, but if you have a little speed built up, they tend to work fine. So you've seen this one. And I also have one still in the box. There's their Little Six. Back in the day, it cost $10.95, and you can see totally a white metal boiler and cab and underframe. Everything is white metal, no plastic on that kit. Typical 5-pole open frame motor, and ready for me to build. So that's their Little Six. And their Big Six is totally different. It's a 060 steam locomotive, but it does have a tender. It has a slope back tender. Only does the Big Six have a tender, but the electrical pickup for the motor is quite different than on the Little Six as well. Let's tip it over, and I think you can see on the, make sure that's in the camera. Yes, it is. On the Big Six, the power to one pole of the motor is picked up by the wheels on one side of the locomotive, so off of one rail of the track, and the other pole of the motor is fed by wheels on the opposite track on the tender. So these are so dirty, these wheels, it's hard for me to tell, but I believe these are the brass conductive wheels, so these must be the conductive wheels on the locomotive. Here, in this vintage, you can see that there are wipers on the axles that are picking up the power being taken from the brass wheels to the axles, fed to the underframe, which is metal, picked up by this wire, which goes into the back of the locomotive cab and attaches to one pole of the motor. This vintage has a die-cast boiler assembly, excuse me, but a plastic cab. As is true with the Mantuas, they evolved over time. I mean, at one time everything was die-cast, and then they went more and more to plastic keeping the frame of the motor, the underframe, die-cast metal. So this is an undecorated one that I picked up along the way. It is not operational at the moment. Judging by the filth on the wheels and so forth, it probably is just a matter of cleaning the wheels, cleaning the commutator. The paint is in bad shape, so I'd have to strip it and repaint it. Probably not a project for this summer, but that's a good example of the Big Six. Here's another Big Six. This one is operational. Let me just put these two somewhat side by side. Looking at the paint job. Of course, this one the paint is peeling off. But what struck me when I saw this one come up for sale, when it did, was what a nice job a previous owner, and it wasn't the person who was selling it, but it was even previous to him, did on both painting and weathering this locomotive. Just very nicely done. It looks like a well used workhorse. In a minute I will bring it over to the tracks and we'll see how it runs, but I just wanted to turn it over a minute and point out again how different iterations of these things changed. All the wheels are nicely cleaned on this, and you can clearly see that these wheels are the pickup wheels on the tender. You no longer see wipers on the axles. It's simply being fed from the wheels that are picking up the juice here to the metal frame of the truck, to the frame of the underframe of the tender, picked up by this wire and brought to the pole on the motor. So what we'll do is we'll bring these over to the tracks and just finish this up, but as you can see, big difference between the little six and the Big Six. The Big Sixes with their split pickups, some of it coming from the locomotive drivers and some coming from the tender wheels on the opposite track, tend to run much smoother than the little short coupled tank locomotives, but both have their place on the roster. And so I'll see you in a minute or two over on the layout, and we'll just finish the video up by showing them running. Talk to you then. All right, let's see this nicely painted and weathered Big Six pull a few coal cars up the line. Back her up a bit. Let me just move the camera up here in front. And pull her forward a little bit more. And there she is. A good example of a Mantua Big Six. And it's as many Mantuas are, just nice smooth runners, and they keep chugging along. And I will continue to pick some up that are in need of tender love and care and get them on the tracks. What my heirs are going to do with my big collection of Mantuas, well, that's their problem. But there she is. I think you can see why I might have been attracted to this one. I think the fellow who sold this to me wanted it to go to somebody who would use it, and it ended up being $30 including shipping, which is kind of hard to beat for a nice running steam locomotive. Alrighty, as always, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have not already done so, please subscribe to the channel, and I will be talking to you again soon.